Most people remember Courage the Cowardly Dog as the strange cartoon with a dog who was always running from danger in the middle of nowhere. But for anyone who actually watched the show, there's one thing you quickly learn. Courage was terrifying. Beneath the surface of this bizarre kids show lurked some of the creepiest, most nightmarish episodes ever aired on Cartoon Network, which is why today I'm diving into the 10 darkest episodes that still scare me as an adult. Starting with Heads of Beef, it all starts when Muriel gets sick, leaving Eustace and Courage to fend for themselves at dinner time. Naturally, Eustace decides to grab a bite to eat at some random sketchy restaurant that just so happens to be called Burgers, real cheap. I mean, what could possibly go wrong with a place like that? Naturally, Courage is a little more cautious. When they walk inside, everything feels off from the start. There's a lone man sitting at the counter, eating a burger like everything is normal. Jean Bon, the restaurant owner, greets them with a polite smile. Everything seems harmless until the man gets up to use the bathroom and never comes back. Suddenly, the hair on the back of Courage's neck stands up, but it's only when he sees the man's face molded onto the burger that Courage starts to lose it. He's not just paranoid, he's scared, for good reason. He tries to warn Eustace, but as usual, Eustace is too busy enjoying his cheap meal to care. Courage sneaks into the back of the restaurant where he overhears Jean Bon and his wife talking about them in hushed voices. That's when Courage's panic hits an all-time high. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Courage continues to investigate, leading him into the basement. What he finds there is straight up horrifying. Jean Bon's wife is eating the head of the missing man. Now Courage bolts, trying to escape, but of course Jean Bon's wife isn't far behind. As Courage runs for his life, he tries once again to beg Eustace to leave. The stubborn man won't have it. Courage finally escapes the restaurant, but the nightmare doesn't stop there. Turns out, it was all a product of Courage's imagination. The missing man is alive and well, and Courage just made up everything in his head. The real twist comes at the end, when Jean Bon's wife, who's still after Courage, says this.
I still want to sink my teeth into that cute little dog.
While cannibalism is certainly disturbing, our next episode takes terror to a whole new level, with a storyline dealing with much darker themes. The Mask. Everything seems normal, or at least as normal as things get in nowhere, until a terrifying figure walks up to the Bag farmhouse. It's a tall woman in a white dress wearing this absolutely creepy porcelain mask. Her name is Kitty, and she has one goal: to punch Courage in the face and move into their guest room. I mean, talk about making a first impression. Muriel invites Kitty in without hesitation, even though she just attacked their dog. Eustace doesn't care, as long as she doesn't go near his precious chair. Courage, on the other hand, is already terrified, and honestly, he should be. This woman clearly has some serious issues. Kitty keeps saying her best friend Bunny is in trouble because of a horrible dog. She thinks all dogs, especially Courage, are evil. It doesn't help that Kitty refuses to take off her mask. Every time Courage gets too close, she hisses like a broken kettle and beats him like he owes her rent, lunch money, and emotional damages from a past life. Worried and scared out of his mind, Courage does what he usually does, starts investigating. He follows clues and ends up in town, trying to find Bunny. And what does he discover? Not good. Bunny is stuck in a toxic, abusive relationship with a gangster rabbit named Mad Dog. He's aggressive, controlling, and clearly dangerous. Courage sees it all. Mad Dog yelling, threatening, and treating Bunny like she's not even a person. It's deeply disturbing.
Oh, buddy.
This is where things get serious. Courage isn't just trying to protect Muriel from some creepy stranger. He's actually trying to help someone escape real emotional and physical abuse. So yeah, things just got real. Courage sneaks Bunny out, avoiding Mad Dog's thugs, and pulling off some wild cartoon-style escapes. Back at the farmhouse, Kitty finds out what Courage did, and that's when everything changes. Kitty realizes she was wrong about Courage. She was letting her past experiences control how she saw him, and now that Bunny's safe, she can finally let go of that pain. In the end, Bunny and Kitty are reunited. They hug, cry, and promise to stay together. As dark as this was, few episodes deliver pure supernatural dread, quite like this next one, King Ramsay's Curse. It all starts when Courage is poking around the front yard and uncovers something strange buried in the dirt. It's not a bone, not a bug, not even a Muriel knitted sweater from 1983. Nope, it's a huge stone slab covered in weird symbols that scream "do not touch." Naturally, Courage drags it inside like a concerned citizen, trying to prevent an ancient apocalypse. But Eustace immediately grabs it like it's a winning lottery ticket. Within minutes, he's fantasizing about selling it on late-night TV and calling himself King Eustace. Courage is already shaking, and honestly, he's right to panic. Because the second that slab enters the house, everything starts feeling off. Later that night, a tall, shadowy figure appears outside the house. He's got the floaty vibe of a ghost, the fashion sense of an ancient pharaoh, and the voice of a haunted answering machine. This is King Ramsays, and he only says one thing.
This night you will be visited by 3 plagues, each worse than the last. Return the slab.
Courage immediately freaks out. Eustace, on the other hand, thinks it's a prank and refuses to give it back. That's when the first curse hits. A swarm of locusts descends on the house. These aren't regular bugs either. These bugs have rage issues. They tear through everything like they're mad at the concept of windows. Courage tries to fight them off with a broom and pure adrenaline, but Eustace just shrugs like it's mildly inconvenient weather. Eventually, Courage hits his breaking point. He grabs the slab, runs outside, and throws it exactly where he found it. The air clears and the bugs are nowhere to be found. For a second, it feels like things might go back to normal, but then Eustace comes stomping out of the house, still yelling about how the slab was worth millions. He takes it back and holds it like it's a long-lost family heirloom. The bugs return and snatch him away in a blink, gone without a trace. Now he's resting with Ramsays in a pharaoh's coffin, and the camera lingers just long enough for us to hear something from inside the grave.
What's your offer?
Speaking of things that stick with you, nothing haunts me quite like our next creepy character, Freaky Fred. Muriel's nephew, Fred, comes to visit the Bag family. He looks polite, calm, and well-mannered, but there's something off about him. He speaks only in rhymes with a constant grin on his face that never changes. The moment Fred enters the house, Courage's fur stands on end, despite every nerve in his body telling him to hide under the couch. Courage decides to muster all the bravery he has left and sits beside Fred, like someone put him on vibration mode. But Courage doesn't trust him. He tries to warn Muriel and Eustace, but as usual, they don't listen. Meanwhile, Eustace, who's had enough of the day's drama, decides it's time for him to take a dramatic exit. He sneaks towards the door, planning to make a break for it, but Muriel, she's having none of it. She practically orders him to sit still. So the best he can do is to pull out his so-called newspaper, pretend he's busy researching something really important. Muriel, completely oblivious to the tension in the room, tells Fred to go freshen up. The second Fred leaves the room, Eustace springs into action. He grabs Courage, tosses him into the bathroom with a towel, and tells him to get ready for the guest. Now here's where things get truly messed up. Courage, stuck in that bathroom, tries to open the door, but it's locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Fred, however, has his own plans for the poor dog. Pulls out a suitcase filled with odd tools. And if Courage wasn't terrified before, he sure as heck is now. Fred grins a creepy grin and goes to work. It's not a haircut, it's a nightmare. Courage tries everything to escape, scratching, pawing at the door, and yelping for help, but no luck. He's trapped with a hair freak, and things aren't looking up. In his desperation, Courage dials the police. Yes, the police. By the time they arrive, it's too late. Courage doesn't even look like a dog anymore. He's more like a peeled potato than the pink dog we all know and love. But if Fred's brand of horror was in your face and unsettling, our next episode takes a completely different approach. Perfect. Courage is having a rough day. No matter what he does, he keeps making little mistakes, dropping things, tripping, even getting his tail tangled. And of course, Eustace is no help. Every time Courage slips up, Eustace hurls his usual insult.
Stupid dog!
It's enough to make anyone feel worthless, and Courage starts to believe it. That's when she appears. Out of nowhere, a strict, old-fashioned school teacher floats into the room, wearing a long dress and glasses that feel centuries out of place. She introduces herself as a tutor who will teach Courage to be perfect. From that moment on, Courage is forced into endless lessons. How to sit properly, how to walk with grace, how to speak without stuttering. The more he tries, the more he fails, and the more she criticizes him.
not the least bit perfect.
Overwhelmed, Courage begins to have disturbing dreams. They're surreal and uncomfortable. In one dream, he becomes a fish in a wheelchair, mocked for not fitting in. In another, a field of flowers laughs at him. The worst part is the repeated message.
You're not perfect.
His anxiety builds with each dream, each lesson, each reminder that he's not good enough. Then something unexpected happens. A strange figure shows up in the bathtub. It's pale, almost ghost-like, with a long, stretched-out face and eyes that never blink. This figure doesn't mock or correct him. Instead, it simply says,
Beautiful as you are, Courage. With all your imperfections, you can do anything.
It's the first time Courage hears a kind voice. That moment stays with him. The next time the teacher corrects him, Courage doesn't freeze. He doesn't panic. He simply says no. He rejects her idea of perfection. With that, the teacher loses her grip on him. She vanishes in a swirl of wind and dust, unable to control someone who no longer fears her. Courage is still clumsy, still unsure, but he's no longer ashamed. He learns that chasing perfection only leads to fear, and being himself is more than enough. Now let's take a trip away from nowhere and into the urban nightmare that scarred an entire generation of kids. Trust me, you'll never look at accordions the same way again. Courage in the Big Stinkin' City. When Muriel is invited to play her sitar at a concert in the city, Courage and Eustace tag along for the trip. It's not long before the peaceful, quiet vibes of nowhere are replaced with screeching cars, flashing lights, and sketchy alleys. The city is grimy, loud, and unsettling, especially for a dog like Courage. Still, Muriel is excited, and Courage sticks close to her side, hoping this won't be as bad as it looks. At the theater, they're greeted by a mysterious cockroach named Schwick. He's the theater's manager, or claims to be, and he seems more interested in trapping them than actually helping. He offers Muriel a place to rehearse but insists she can't perform unless Courage runs an errand for him. Retrieve an item from an abandoned apartment across town. It's a weird demand, but Courage doesn't have a choice. So Courage heads out alone, traveling deeper into the dark, twisted heart of the city. Every street is a maze, every corner hiding something strange. He dodges speeding taxis, creepy rats, and strange figures watching him from the shadows. Eventually he reaches the apartment. It's old, decaying, and full of shadows. The item is a mysterious box, of course. Courage grabs it, but the second he steps out, all hell breaks loose. A cop spots him and immediately gives chase like he just robbed a museum. Even the train conductor straight up jumps off the moving train the moment he sees Courage clutching that cursed package. But Courage being Courage, he still tries to save the day. He leaps into action, stops the runaway train like a hero, and accidentally slams it right into the theater. On the bright side, the package is delivered on time. Turns out, inside the box is something the cockroach absolutely didn't want. So before he can attack them, Courage grabs Muriel and rushes her to the stage. She performs like a queen. The audience loves it. Courage, just another day risking his life for someone else's standing ovation. Sometimes the scariest places isn't a haunted city or an abandoned building. Sometimes it's right at home. And in our next episode, Home takes on a whole new terrifying meaning. The House of Discontent. It's harvest season, and the bag farm is unusually quiet. Too quiet. Muriel is baking, Eustace is complaining as always, and Courage is minding his business, when things suddenly shift.
Get out.
The next thing you know, pots start flying, eggs explode midair, and the fridge starts launching food like it's got beef. Across the hall, Eustace struts into the bathroom, only for the door to slam shut and the tub to fill like it's trying to drown his cranky soul. And then a growling skeletal spirit appears inside the house, floating just above the ground. It calls itself the spirit of the harvest moon, and it is not pleased. Apparently the bags haven't been generous enough with their land. The spirit claims the family hasn't shown enough appreciation for the harvest, and threatens to destroy them unless they prove themselves by midnight. Muriel is confused by the claim. Eustace, of course, ignores the warning entirely. Courage is the only one taking the ghost warning seriously. He gets to work, dragging the cursed plant into the sunlight, replanting the crops like he's running a ghost-infested farm, even setting up a tribute under the tube light. Meanwhile, Eustace is doing nothing but roasting the ghost with full-on banter, as if that's ever helped anyone survive supernatural wrath. Courage, on the other hand, keeps pushing through, until he finally realizes the plant doesn't need tribute or moonlight, it just needs water. Of course, by that time it's already midnight. The spirit shows up again, and this time he's done playing. He warns them to leave or burn.
Get out now, or face the consequences.
And within seconds, the house turns into a melting furnace. The floors are dripping, the walls are sweating, and so is Eustace, like a lot. That's when Courage's last brain cell pulls through. He grabs the dying plant and shoves it right under Eustace's sweaty face. One perfectly timed sweat drop hits the soil, and the plant springs to life. The house cools down, the ghost backs off, and just like that, Courage saves the day. But technically, Eustace's sweat did the final trick. You know what's scary about Courage? The way it turns ordinary objects into sources of pure nightmare fuel. And this next one does that with something you've seen 1,000 times, but never thought twice about. Until now. The Bag family windmill is always spinning, day and night, wind or no wind. It turns. No one questions it, not even Eustace, who'd rather complain about everything else. But when the windmill suddenly stops, something ancient and terrifying awakens. Muriel tells Eustace to fix it, and in typical Eustace fashion, he climbs up and whacks the windmill with a hammer. Bad idea. The nose cone falls off, the windmill shuts down completely, and the entire house loses power. Eustace sends Courage to hold the windmill together while he and Muriel head into town for parts. While Courage clings to the machine with a wrench, he notices something. There's a dark cloud slowly approaching the farm. Out of the storm rides 4 skeleton warriors in Viking armor, mounted on skeletal horses, circling the windmill like ghostly vultures. Courage panics but manages to restart the blades just in time, making the phantoms vanish into the mist. But the real mystery begins when Courage accidentally scrapes the paint off one of the windmill blades and uncovers strange symbols underneath. Curious, he snaps photos and rushes inside to consult the computer. So clearly, as long as the windmill turned, the vandals would stay buried. If it ever stopped, they'd come back. And guess what? It stops. Again. The vandals storm back with full force. One swings a blade and cleanly takes off Eustace's head. His body stumbles around, blindly swinging his hammer in confusion. And thanks to him, the hammer strikes the windmill base, and the entire structure collapses. Things go from bad to worse. Muriel and Courage both lose their heads, literally. Now the scene turns into a frantic scramble of headless bodies trying to survive. It's eerie, unsettling, and somehow surreal. In the midst of the chaos, Courage does something funny by rolling Eustace's head like a bowling ball straight into the approaching vandals. They immediately fix the windmill before the vandals chop off another part of their heads. With that, the curse lifts and the undead vanish in a cloud of dust. Thanks to Courage's clumsiness, he falls right onto Muriel and Eustace, knocking everyone's head off once more. From skeletons to sinister water spirits, this next episode shows just how dangerous even the smallest puddle can be in nowhere. Queen of the Black Puddle. Eustace is up to his usual antics, scaring Courage for fun while Muriel knits peacefully nearby. But while outside, Courage notices something weird, a mysterious puddle near the farmhouse. He looks into it, and instead of his usual terrified reflection, he sees a beautiful ghostly queen with shark teeth. Courage freaks out and rushes to tell Muriel, but she just shrugs and says it's probably a fish. Later, Eustace starts hearing his name being whispered from inside his cup. Courage sees the queen again, rising from the tea like some cursed latte art. But she disappears before Muriel can catch her. Eustace, though, he's totally under her spell. When Muriel asks him to fix the leak in the ceiling, the queen shows up again, this time inside a water droplet, and keeps luring Eustace in like a soggy siren. Courage tries to intervene, but it's no use. Eustace ends up with his head stuck in the bathtub drain. But that night, the queen had another plan. She sneaks in and drags Eustace into the puddle like it's a portal to her creepy underwater lair. Courage watches helplessly from the window. The next day, Eustace runs off again, and Courage realizes there's only one way to fix this. He's gotta go save that cranky old man. So he suits up, dives in, and enters the queen's submerged palace. Inside, Eustace is completely mesmerized while the queen dances and gives him a flashy seashell necklace, just like the ones worn by the skeletons scattered across the floor. Just before she devours him, Courage uses a fishing rod to yank Eustace out of her grasp and flees. The queen traps them, but Courage tricks her into a clam and bolts for the surface. The puddle's drying fast, but luckily, Muriel's tears form an exit just in time. Just like that, Courage and Eustace escape back to the farmhouse. Courage dries up the puddle before the queen sinks back into the mud. Muriel is thrilled Eustace is okay, until she clobbers him with a rolling pin for disappearing. Eustace has no idea what happened. Everything's back to normal, or so it seems. That night, Courage climbs into the bath, and guess who shows up again? Speaking of things that make you unable to sleep at night, the next episode will never let you look at your bed the same way again. Demon in the Mattress. The episode starts with Muriel complaining that her old mattress is too lumpy to sleep on, but Eustace brushes her off, refusing to spend a dime. Tired of waiting, Muriel orders a new mattress herself. Soon after, a shady delivery truck shows up, dropping off a massive, strange-looking mattress without much explanation. Courage is instantly uneasy. The thing looks stitched together and hums with something unnatural. That night, everything goes wrong. As Muriel lies down to rest, her eyes snap open, now glowing red. Her voice drops to a deep growl and she starts floating off the bed. Within seconds, she's fully possessed, trashing the room with inhuman strength and speaking in ancient, distorted phrases. Eustace shrugs it off, thinking she's just cranky. But Courage knows that this is no ordinary bad mood. He checks the computer, flipping through files until he finds something terrifying. Mattress demons are real and they feed off comfort and weakness. With no time to spare, he rushes to gather anything that might help. Garlic, books, holy water, even a vacuum cleaner. Eustace takes the exorcism chant Courage gave him and struts in like he's about to save the day. The second possessed Muriel snarls at him. His confidence goes out the window. He mumbles the words, trembling, and gets rewarded with a pity laugh and a face full of... Courage sees Eustace crash and burn, so he grabs the chant himself and storms in like a dog on a mission. With shaky paws and a splash of holy water, he somehow pulls it off and the demon's gone. Muriel's safe, but not before Eustace, standing way too close, inhales the leftover demon fog like it's a new cologne. Suddenly he's foaming, twitching, and growling at the furniture. The Bag family had had enough, so they do what anyone would do. Yeet both Eustace and the cursed mattress straight out the front door. And that's a wrap. Those were the 10 darkest episodes in Courage the Cowardly Dog. If you've made it this far, you're clearly brave enough to handle the weirdness. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and you've been warned. Subscribe now or risk meeting something creepy lurking in the shadows.